During the early part of the 20th century, there occurred a unique event in the spiritual history of modern India. In the remote village of Sridham Mayapur, on the banks of the sacred Ganga in West Bengal, there resided a distinguished personality who would, in due course, do more to help raise the consciousness of human civilization than that of any other person of his time. On March 7th, 1918, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, adorning the saffron robes of a mendicant, accepted the renounced order of life, Tridandi Sannyas. He then raised the clarion call of Sri Krishna Sankirtan at Sridham Mayapur with Kartala Mridanga, that would eventually be heard in every town and village around the world. In so doing, Saraswati Thakur brought attention to the deep spiritual teachings of Krishna consciousness. He issued a universal challenge of totalitarian war against all philosophical and theistic misconceptions that cover the true identity of the soul. In the teachings of Saraswati Thakur, the only thing lacking in this material world is Krishna consciousness. The only real welfare work to be done is the distribution of Krishna consciousness, the prime benediction for humanity at large. The achievements of power, wealth, and fame are all temporary and lead to the perpetual suffering of the soul in the cycle of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan movement, started by Saraswati Thakur from Sridham Mayapur, was the revival of the original Krishna Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the 15th century. Through his preaching, Saraswati Thakur attracted to his mission many sincere members of the intelligentsia and social elite of Bengal. Together with his disciples, Saraswati Thakur led a second renaissance of the Krishna consciousness movement, establishing temples, defeating opposing philosophies, recruiting thousands of converts to the doctrine of divine love, and publishing ancient and modern spiritual texts in periodicals, books, and newspapers, and distributing them throughout India and abroad. From the time of his accepting Tridandi Sannyas in 1918 until his departure from this world in 1937, his mission, known as the Gaudiya Math, flourished under his guidance. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada was born in Orissa at Jagannath Puri on February 6, 1874, as the seventh child of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srimati Bhagavati Devi. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a government official and was in charge of the Jagannath temple in Puri. In his spiritual life, Bhaktivinoda was a great pioneer of the Krishna consciousness movement. At the time, when the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had all but been lost or distorted by unscrupulous persons, such as the Saki beggars, Bhaktivinoda began publishing numerous papers, journals and books, establishing the pure teachings of Sri Chaitanya. By his personal character, he restored dignity to the Gaudiya Vaishnava community. Bhaktivinoda prayed fervently to Lord Jagannath to kindly send him someone who would be capable of preaching the message of Sri Chaitanya. Upon the birth of his seventh child, Bhaktivinoda realized after observing a series of divine events that his newborn son was indeed the answer to his prayers. Accordingly, Bhaktivinoda named his son Bimla Prasad, meaning the mercy of Lord Jagannath, or one who revealed to the world the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. His sons receiving the blessings of Lord Jagannath during the annual Ratha Yatra festival, when he was only 5 months old, was noted by Bhaktivinoda as a direct confirmation of the divinity of his son. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada shares with us the memory of this event.
When my spiritual master appeared at Jagannath Puri, he was the son of a very big government office, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was magistrate, and in those days a magistrate is a big officer in the government, practically next to governor. and Bhaktivinoda Thakur was in charge of the Jagannath temple. So there was Ratha Yatra festival, and the car was passing in front of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house. The car stopped before his house, and at that time Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, a child in the lap of his mother, the mother took the opportunity of rising on the car. He was magistrate's wife, so he had the facility. Immediately people gave her a way to go on the top of the car and place the child on the lotus feet of Jagannath, and there were many garlands. One garland fell upon him. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, blessings.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur moved his family to Calcutta the same year as Saraswati Thakur's birth, and later, in 1881, Bhaktivinoda constructed Bhakti Bhavan, the family's residence and place of bhajan. While digging the foundation for the house, Bhaktivinoda found a Kurma Shalagram Shila. He then placed 7-year-old Saraswati Thakur in charge of the daily worship of the Shalagram, which still remains at Bhakti Bhavan. Saraswati Thakur was indeed an exceptional personality who always showed keen interest in spiritual life. By the age of 7, he was assisting his father in proofreading the Sajjanatoshini, a monthly spiritual journal. That same year, he received Harinam initiation with Tulsi beads and Narasingha mantra from Bhaktivinoda. As a primary student at the Sri Rampur Christian Missionary School, Saraswati Thakur quickly mastered his general studies. Later, in 1885, while under the tutelage of Pandit Mahesh Chandra Chudamani and Pandit Sundarlal, he excelled in Sanskrit, mathematics and Vedic astrology. He was thus awarded the honorific title of Siddhanta Saraswati, meaning one whose knowledge and scholarship are blessed by the goddess of learning. That title was to remain with him for life. In 1887, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was posted in government service at Krishnanagar. During that time, he began visiting Navadvip town. On one such visit to Navadvip, Bhaktivinoda was staying at the Rani Dharmashala when he had a vision of Yogapith, the birth site of Sri Chaitanya. One Saturday evening, Bhaktivinoda was sitting on the roof of the Dharmashala in Navadvip. Across the Ganga, in the direction of Mayapur, Bhaktivinoda saw an effulgent glow. Within that divine effulgence appeared the Adbhut Mandir, a wonderful temple surrounded by light. Bhaktivinoda was utterly amazed. The following Saturday, Bhaktivinoda went to the area of Mayapur, where at night he again had a wonderful vision of the Adbhut Mandir. He spent the next day wandering all over the area. The elderly locals told him that this was indeed the location of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birth. They pointed out an extensive mound covered with tulsi plants as the actual site of the Lord's appearance. However, in Navadvip, the findings of Bhaktivinoda were opposed by caste Brahmanas, who claimed that the birth site of Sri Chaitanya was actually Prachin Mayapur in modern Navadvip town. But according to Bhaktivinoda's research, utilizing old maps of Ganga Govinda Singh and authentic manuscripts of the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Bhakti Ratnaka, and Navadvip Parikram Padati, he was certain that Mayapur was located on the eastern bank of the Ganga. He also discovered that the present town of Navadvip, situated on the western bank of the Ganga, was not more than 100 years old. Thus, Prachin Mayapur in modern Navadvip could not be the birth site of Sri Chaitanya.
It has got no ground because Yogapith is the birthplace, it is good for all respect. She particularly cherished it. She, after all, Mahaprabhu was born just 529 years or so, or 20 years. And during that time, definitely there are all the records, maps, everything. So from the point of archaeological, from the point of history, from the point of geography, from the point of literature, it is clearly proved without any doubt that Mahaprabhu was born in the eastern side of Ganga. And Prachin Mayapur is in the western side. Therefore, undisputed.
Wishing to confirm his vision and findings even more resoundingly, Bhaktivinoda in 1888 requested his Shiksha Guru and the head of the Gaudiya Vaishnava community, Jagannath Das Babaji, to come to the newly discovered birth site of Sri Chaitanya. The aged Babaji, who was more than 120 years old at that time, had to be carried in a basket wherever he went. However, when Jagannath Das Babaji was brought to the spot discovered by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he became overwhelmed with ecstasy and jumped from his basket, shouting, "Et Tonimai Janmabhumi! Et Tonimai Janmabhumi!" This is indeed the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya. Thus, from both an empirical and spiritual point of view, the place of Sri Chaitanya's birth was ascertained. From this time on, Saraswati Thakur began staying in Mayapur at intervals. In 1889, Bhaktivinoda built his place of bhajan, Swananda Sukara Kunj, at Godrumadweep on the banks of the Jalangi. Sometimes Bhaktivinoda and Saraswati Thakur were staying at Godrumadweep, sometimes at Krishnanagar, and sometimes in Calcutta. In 1891, at age 17, Saraswati Thakur gathered some of his young friends in Calcutta and formed a philosophical discussion group called the August Assembly. Each member of this discussion group took a lifelong vow of celibacy, a vow that in the end only Saraswati Thakur himself was able to maintain. He remained a Naishtaka Brahmachari, completely celibate throughout his life. From 1892 to 1898, Saraswati Thakur assisted Bhaktivinoda in the development of Mayapur and the propagation of Krishna consciousness. In 1895, a grand festival was held at Mayapur, in which Bhaktivinoda installed deities of Sri Chaitanya and Vishnu Priya. In 1896, Bhaktivinoda prepared a small Krishna-conscious publication for sending to the West, entitled Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, His Life and Precepts. The small booklet was sent to the Royal Asiatic Society in London and to several universities in the United States and Canada. Bhaktivinoda was eager to spread the teachings of Sri Chaitanya among the educated people of the West.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur could see that there is also some sincerity in the Western search for truths and answers to the mysteries of life. And he knew that there were the answers in the Vedas, in the transcendental tradition. So he surely appreciated that an effort should be made to convey this message in a language people could relate to.
News of the American Transcendentalist movement had reached India, and Bhaktivinoda dreamed of one day seeing Western scholars and philosophers come in contact with the teachings of Sri Chaitanya. When Bhaktivinoda published Sri Krishna Samhita in Sanskrit and Bengali in 1880, he had sent copies to scholars like Ralph Waldo Emerson in America and Reinhold Rost in London. Now, with the publication of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, His Life and Precepts in English, Bhaktivinoda was optimistic that the message of Mahaprabhu would soon be taken up on Western shores. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had himself predicted that the holy name of Krishna would be sung in every town and village of the world, and Bhaktivinoda was anxious to see this happen. Also, the year Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, His Life and Precepts was sent to the West, another great Gaudiya Vaishnava personality was born in Calcutta, who in the latter half of the 20th century would fulfill the desires of Bhaktivinoda and Saraswati Thakur by preaching the holy name of Krishna in every town and village around the globe. That great personality was Abhay Charan De, later to become known as A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Swami B.B. Bodhaya Maharaj of Gopinath Gaudiya Math confirms these facts.
Actually, nowadays, if you look the route to spread the message of Mahaprabhu around the world, he is the root of these messages to spread around the world abroad. It was his desire to spread the message. First Mahaprabhu's desire, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur's desire, and Prabhupada's desire, and he was trying to spread, and his desire, by his desire, Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada, he going out by his power, by his grace, he spread the message around the world.
While staying in Calcutta, Saraswati Thakur studied Sanskrit at the Calcutta Sanskrit College, and he studied Vedas under Pandit Prithvidas Sharma. During those years, Saraswati Thakur manifested a strong tendency towards renunciation and informed his family and teachers that he had no intention of taking up householder life. In 1898, Saraswati Thakur accompanied Bhaktivinoda on pilgrimage to Gaya, Benares and Prayag. After returning to Swananda Sukara Kunj in Gudrumadweep, Saraswati Thakur, then 24 years old, met his spiritual master, Gaurkishore Das Babaji, for the first time. It was at Swananda Sukara Kunj that Saraswati Thakur would have repeated opportunities to associate with the most elevated Vaishnavas of his time, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Jagannath Das Babaji, Vamsi Das Babaji and Gaurkishore Das Babaji. In late January of 1900, after repeated humble submissions, Gaurkishore Das Babaji happily accepted Saraswati Thakur as his formally initiated disciple and conferred upon him Bhagavati Diksha and the name Sri Vashabhanavi Dayita Das, meaning one who is the servant of the dear most beloved of Srimati Radharani.
ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুরেরও ইচ্ছা ছিল যে গৌরকিশোর বাবাজি মহারাজকে উনি যে আমার নিজের ছেলে তো এই জন্য উনি একটু সংকোচ করেছিলেন যে আমার ছেলেকে, তাহলেও উনি নৃসিংহ মন্ত্র দিয়েছিলেন। নৃসিংহ মন্ত্র হরিনাম প্রথমে উনি দিয়েছিলেন, ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর প্রভুপাদকে দিয়েছিলেন। তারপরে গৌরকিশোর বাবাজি মহারাজকে ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুরের কাছে ভাগবত শুনতে আসতেন, সামান্য সুখদ করবে ওপারে সবই বলবে। তা ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর দেখলেন গৌরকিশোর বাবাজি খুব ভালো সেন্ট, ভেরি গুড সেন্ট, ওনার ইচ্ছা যে তাহলে আমার ছেলেকে এনার কাছ থেকে দীক্ষা, নিজের ছেলে তো প্রভুপাদ সরস্বতী ঠাকুর, এই জন্যে নিজের ছেলে হিসাবে আর দেখলেন ইনি গুড সেন্ট দিয়ে, আর সরস্বতী ঠাকুরেরও খুব ইচ্ছা হয়েছিল যে গৌরকিশোর বাবাজি মহারাজের কাছ থেকে নিয়ে।
In 1902, Saraswati Thakur returned to Jagannath Puri with Bhaktivinoda, where he came into conflict with the Kirtan party led by Radha Raman Charan. Radha Raman Charan had established a poetic style of Kirtan, wherein there were opposing philosophical conclusions and conflicting transcendental mellows. It was also the practice of Radha Raman Charan to imitate ecstasies and sometimes dress himself or his male followers as gopis or sakibekis. Saraswati Thakur found Radha Raman Charan's Kirtan deviations and imitations to be against the principles of Sri Chaitanya. All these deviant practices were firmly protested by Saraswati Thakur, who preached pure devotional Kirtan. In 1905, Saraswati Thakur travelled to South India, where he met the head priest of the Ramanuja Sampradaya at Sri Parambadur. Together, they discussed the Vaishnava order of Tridandi Sannyas that had been in effect for several thousand years since the time of Vishnu Swami. It was clear to Saraswati Thakur from their discussions that Tridandi Sannyas was an accepted part of Vaishnava Dharma, although it had been lost over time in certain parts of the country. Returning from South India, Saraswati Thakur went to Mayapur, where he remained for 4 years and performed the Naam Vrat of chanting 300,000 names of Krishna every day.
Mahaprabhu is the only person who came into this world to give life to all people by chanting Harinam Sankirtan. Naam is the only thing by which one can get rid of all the pains of this world. Naam Kirtan, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. At Mayapur, full of jungle, not a single temple. Prabhupada used to stay in the Bhajan Kuti, which is at present that side, but only one room that was constructed by man. And on the top floor, in the jungle, there is no road, no road at all. We have to walk from Hulu Ghat. That is, by crossing the Ganges, we have to go by foot. Nothing else. No cart. No cow cart. Later on, cow cart started. When I first went there with my father, at that time there was no cow cart. No question of bus, motor, road, electricity.
By 1914, Saraswati Thakur had become widely recognized as a stalwart preacher of the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya. The numerous branches of Bengali pseudo-spiritualists such as Gauranagaris, Baals, Sakivekis, Smartas, Ativadis and Jati Gosais cowered in fear before this great personality. The mission of Sri Chaitanya was now in good hands, and Mayapur was beginning to flourish. In a letter, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave Saraswati Thakur specific instructions for establishing Devi Varanashram, the divine social system based on service to Krishna, for preaching Krishna consciousness to the masses, for publishing devotional books, for serving Sridham Mayapur, and for establishing the annual circumambulation of Navadvip Dham. Not long after giving these instructions, Bhaktivinoda Thakur concluded his earthly pastimes and attained the eternal realm of Golok Vrindavan. On June the 23rd, 1914, precisely at noon, Bhaktivinoda entered the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, far beyond the vision of the conditioned souls of this world. The next year, on November the 17th, 1915, Gaurkishore Das Babaji also left this mortal world for the eternal pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Saraswati Thakur then placed his Gurudev's body in Samadhi. Within 2 years, both the Gurus of Saraswati Thakur, Gaurkishore Das Babaji and Bhaktivinoda Thakur had departed from this world. Saraswati Thakur felt deep separation from his affectionate Gurus and was thus thinking how he would be able to fulfill the desires of his spiritual masters. Then, one night, while contemplating the instructions of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he saw a vision that Sri Chaitanya had arrived at Yogapith temple with all his associates amid the sound of Krishna's Sankirtan. With him, the 6 Goswamis, Jagannath Das Babaji, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Gaurkishore Das Babaji, all of whom spoke encouraging words for Saraswati Thakur to boldly preach the message of Sri Chaitanya and assured him of all success. Soon after, Saraswati Thakur found a piece of torn paper carried by the wind. The paper contained a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, wherein Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs Sanatana Goswami. From this verse, Saraswati Thakur derived 4 codes that would become the foundation of his missionary activities: to publish Krishna conscious literature, to teach the principles of devotional service, to open centers for the cultivation of Krishna consciousness, and to teach people how to perform renunciation. That same year, Kunja Bihari Vidyabhushana became a disciple of Saraswati Thakur and began assisting him in spreading Sri Chaitanya's message. Kunja Bihari Vidyabhushana, later to become Bhaktivilas Tirtha Maharaj, became the head organizer and manager of all of Saraswati Thakur's preaching efforts. From 1914 until 1918, Saraswati Thakur gave considerable thought to the necessary steps to be taken in order to widely spread the Sankirtan movement. Having received direct intimation from both his gurus and from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu directly, Saraswati Thakur resolved to accept Tridandi Sannyas, the renounced order of life, on the occasion of the 432nd Appearance Day anniversary of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, on March the 7th, 1918. Thus, he became known as Tridandi Goswami Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. He then established his preaching headquarters nearby Yogapith at Sri Chaitanya Math. where he installed deities of Sri Sri Guru Gauranga Gandhavika Giridhari. The Bhagavad printing press was set up at Chaitanya Mat, and the presses worked constantly for printing the message of Sri Chaitanya. That same year, a house was rented at Ultadanga Junction Road in Calcutta, and a flurry of preaching and Sankirtan activities began. Many educated and influential people of Calcutta, such as Jagat Bandhu Datta and Sakhicharan Rai, came to the Ultadanga house to hear the lectures of Saraswati Thakur, and later became his initiated disciples. The place of preaching was called Bhaktivinoda Asana, meaning the place of the conception of Bhaktivinoda. Soon thereafter, he awarded Tridandi Sannyas to Sri Jagadish Bhakti Pradeep, a disciple of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and conferred upon him the title Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha. Tridandi Sannyas is the lifelong vow of unconditional service to the Supreme Lord, with body, mind and words. In 1920, the deities of Sri Sri Gaura Vinod Ananda were installed at Bhaktivinoda Asana in Calcutta, and the spiritual institution for the widespread propagation of the Sankirtan movement under the name Gaudiya Math officially started. In 1921, the annual Navadvip Mandal Parikram began from Yogapith, and thousands of pilgrims and devotees attended. In 1924, the first Vyasa Puja, celebrating the 50th appearance day anniversary of Saraswati Thakur, was held at the Gaudiya Math in Calcutta. In 1925, during the Navadvip Mandal Parikram, Saraswati Thakur and his disciples were physically attacked by an angry mob of caste-conscious Brahmins, Pandits and hired thugs in Navadvip. At that time, Vinod Viharidas, later to become Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, performed the heroic act of exchanging dress with Saraswati Thakur and diverting the mob while Saraswati Thakur was taken to safety. That year, the Vyasa Puja of Saraswati Thakur was held in Cuttack in Orissa, and he was given the title Prabhupada, meaning at whose feet many masters have taken shelter. 1926 and 1927 saw the publication of the daily Bengali newspaper Nadia Prakash and the monthly English journal The Harmonist. Not a day went by, nor a moment in a day, where Saraswati Thakur was not preaching and propagating the message of Sri Chaitanya. He gave much importance to the publication of Krishna-conscious literature and called the printing press the Brihat Mridanga. Saraswati Thakur often said that the Kartala Mridanga in Sankirtan can be heard nearby, but the printing press can be heard around the world. In the course of 18 years, from 1918 to 1937, Saraswati Thakur published important literatures of the six Goswamis, such as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Hari Bhakti Vilas, and Sakriya Sar Deepika. He published the Bhagavad Gita commentaries of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Baladev Vidyabhushana. He also published Vrindavan Das Thakur's Chaitanya Bhagavat, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's Chaitanya Charitamrita, all the works of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the 5th chapter of Brahma Samhita, and Sri Vyasadev's Srimad Bhagavatam. Saraswati Thakur's writing and publishing was indeed monumental. During these years, Saraswati Thakur also established over 64 missionary centers in India and abroad, and installed deities of Mahaprabhu and Radha Krishna in all the main Gaudiya Maths, such as Sri Sri Gandhavika Giridhari at Chaitanya Math in Mayapur, Sri Sri Vinod Ananda at Bhagavazar Math in Calcutta, Sri Sri Radha Damodar at Krishna Chaitanya Math in Vrindavan, Sri Sri Vinod Madhava at Purushottam Gaudiya Math in Jagannath Puri, Sri Sri Gopi Gopinath at Brahma Gaudiya Math in Alanath, and Sri Sri Nayanabhirama at Ramananda Gaudiya Math on the Godavari River. During this time, Saraswati Thakur also conferred sannyas on a total of 21 disciples and sent them out to preach the message of Sri Chaitanya. Some of his prominent sannyasi disciples were Sri Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Maharaj, his first sannyasi disciple, Sri Bhakti Hriday Ban Maharaj, his leading preacher in Europe, Sri Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, the guardian of pure devotion, Sri Bhakti Vivek Bharati Maharaj, a great preacher of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Bhakti Vichar Yajavara Maharaj, the last initiated sannyas disciple of Saraswati Thakur. After moving the deities from Ultadanga Junction Road to the newly constructed temple at Bagh Bazaar, Saraswati Thakur opened the first theistic diorama exhibition in Mayapur during the 1930 Gaura Purnima festival. The dioramas depicted the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and the principles of devotional service. In 1932, Saraswati Thakur travelled to South India again, where he preached the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya and established the worship of Sri Chaitanya's lotus feet in several important holy places, such as Mangalagiri, the place of Lord Narasingha, and Kovur, where Sri Chaitanya met Ramananda Rai. He travelled with a few of his disciples as far south as Mysore and Uti. At Uti, he wrote the forewords to Sri Brahma Samhita and Sri Krishna Chaitanya by Professor Nishikant Sanyal. At Mysore, he was the honoured guest in the palace of the king Krishna Raj Vodya. During his stay in Mysore, Saraswati Thakur lectured on the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam at the Maharaja's Sanskrit College and visited several of the local temples such as Nanjangod and Sri Rangapatna on the banks of the Kaveri River. Saraswati Thakur was keen to preach Krishna consciousness to Westerners. In his travels throughout India, he sometimes discussed philosophy and religion with persons like the German scholar Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld, Sir William Malcolm Haley, Governor of the United Provinces, and Professor Albert Southers from Ohio State University. Saraswati Thakur often made elaborate arrangements for Westerners to come to Mayapur to hear the sublime teachings of Sri Chaitanya. From South India, Saraswati Thakur returned to Bengal, where he laid the foundation stone at the house of Advaita Acharya in Mayapur. The Bhaktivinoda Institute, an educational foundation for the residents of Sridham Mayapur, was also opened that same year, and many students were admitted. The first Vrajamandu Parikram began in 1932, and Saraswati Thakur and his disciples circumambulated Vrajamandala during the month of Kartik. Saraswati Thakur arrived in Vrindavan by car with many of his non-Brahmin disciples. This created quite a stir among the caste Goswamis of Vrindavan, and all the main temples closed their doors in protest. Only the Radha Raman temple opened its doors and welcomed Saraswati Thakur and his disciples. At the Radha Raman temple, Saraswati Thakur commented that he was getting the darshan of all the deities of Vrindavan in Radha Raman.
So this is the very, I want to tell that this is the very close relation with the Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati and our great-grandfather Madhusudan Goswami. And they have together, they have preached together all over the India. At that time, the Arya Samajis, they were very powerful, and they want to criticize about that deity worship and our Gaudiya Vaishnava cult. They don't accept that Mahaprabhu was the incarnation of Radha and Krishna. They have said that only the Mahaprabhu was the great personality, but not the incarnation of Radha and Krishna. But our great-grandfather and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, they have proved with the scriptures that Mahaprabhu was the incarnation of Radha and Krishna. And they have given the challenge to Arya Samajis. And they have defeated them, and they have accepted that Mahaprabhu was the incarnation of Radha and Krishna. So, at that time, that all the temples, they have allowed Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. After that he can visit all these Gaudiya Vaishnava temples and other temples, and he has visited and he has given the respect from the temples and the local Gaudiya Vaishnava sadhus.
At Radhakund, Saraswati Thakur established a house for the residence of his gurus Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Gorakishore Das Babaji. He said that he and his disciples should only stay there to serve the higher Vaishnavas, and that their place of residence should be at Govardhan Hill, a little distance away. Saraswati Thakur always cautioned his disciples not to intrude upon the higher Leela of Krishna. First deserve, then desire. Do not try to go to the higher plane with your impurities. First, purify your heart with Nam Sankirtan, the holy name of Krishna. Unlike other so-called gurus and Siddha Purushas of his time, Saraswati Thakur did not allow his disciples to discuss the details of Krishna's amorous love with the gopis, although Saraswati Thakur did indeed have many highly qualified disciples. He was particularly disturbed if he heard that any disciple was discussing Ras Leela. Saraswati Thakur also did not allow his disciples to read such books as Gita Govinda, Ujjvala Nilamani, or Govinda Lilamrita. Saraswati Thakur's caution was Matala Harijana Vishaya Range, Pujala Ragpata Gaurava Bange. Always worship the path of Ragamag, spontaneous devotion. Do not rush ahead. Keep yourself a little distant and below. One who transgresses these instructions will be cast down. That was the motto of Gaudiya Math.
Why people were objecting? Why they were objecting? Because he was distorting the teachings? Or he was pointing out the distortion? After all, if you really want to take and put in a nutshell what he taught about the Gaudiya Vaishnavism was, we should practice Gaudiya Vaishnavism without any hypocrisy. This is what he said. I am the enemy of hypocrisy, especially when it comes in the name of Gaur. This was really what he amplified. This point, and there was a lot of it, and therefore there was a lot of objection. And then when they object, he roared louder. They used to call him his disciple Singha Guru, Lion Guru. Like a lion, he roared back louder. He was not about to be intimidated by any such objections. And then they would cite the philosophy and question his initiation and this and so many things. Doctrines came up in opposition to him. So many fine, detailed points, ignoring his emphasis on being the enemy of hypocrisy, and emphasis on a serving disposition. Rather than just collecting information about Radha and Krishna Leela. Actually cultivating self-sacrifice. And this is what this monk order was about. Self-sacrifice. And somebody could sit happily in the dham, in the holy place, and get chapatis and rice and chant Hare Krishna. No, send them to England. With nothing. Send them to America with nothing, these monks. Let them live only on their faith in Krishna. Krishna will provide. Faith in the name of Krishna. That's what my Guru Maharaj did on his order. And see what happened from that. Who has life, he said, that person can preach, can explain these things. They had life. They were giving life to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. We can embrace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and live in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, reject him and die to what it's all about, no matter how much information we may have about it, how well we can speak theoretically about it.
In 1933, Saraswati Thakur sent his first envoys to Europe via London to preach the message of Sri Chaitanya. Bhakti Hriday Ban Maharaj and Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Maharaj set sail from Bombay with the blessings of Saraswati Thakur to preach and propagate Krishna consciousness in the West. In 1934, the construction of the Adbhut Mandir at Yogapit in Mayapur began. While digging the foundation for the temple, a deity of Adokshija Vishnu was unearthed. The eminent archaeologist Sri Ram Prasad Chanda ascertained the age of the Adokshija Vishnu deity to be that of the era of Sri Chaitanya. Thus, it was determined that the Adokshija Vishnu deity was the household deity of Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Mata, the parents of Sri Chaitanya, further confirming the site as the birthplace of the Supreme Lord. The next year, the Adbhut Mandir was completed due to the magnanimous contributions of Sri Sakhicharan Bhakti Vijay, who bore the entire expense of the temple. The grand opening was held on Gaur Purnima in 1935 and was attended by thousands of devotees and pilgrims who performed loud Krishna Sankirtan. The festival was also attended by the king Maharaja Bir Bikram Kishore Dev Bahadur of Tripura state. The Maharaja commented that he was pleased to see the developments at Sri Chaitanya's birthplace. With the opening of the skyscraper temple at Yogapit, it was concluded by all that Saraswati Thakur had indeed fulfilled the vision of Bhaktivinoda Thakur by building the Adbhut Mandir. Sir John Anderson, Governor of Bengal, then visited Mayapur by personal invitation and presented an official proclamation that Yogapith in Mayapur was the authentic birth site of Sri Chaitanya. News of this came as the death blow to the Sahaja and caste Brahmin communities of Navadvip. In September of 1935, Bhakti Hriday Ban Maharaj returned from preaching in Europe and was greeted with a grand reception in Howrah Station in Calcutta. With Ban Maharaj were two German scholars, Baron von Goethe and Herr Ernst Schulze. In due course, Ernst Schulze fully embraced Gaudiya Vaishnavism and became Sadananda Das, an initiated disciple of Saraswati Thakur. Saraswati Thakur was happy upon the return of his preachers from Europe, but still remained anxious that someday strong preachers should become permanently established in Western countries. In October 1936, Saraswati Thakur went to Jagannath Puri, where he began to manifest the pastimes of his departure from this world. In Puri, he stayed at Chattagaparvat and preached vigorously to his disciples and visitors. During one confidential discourse, he mentioned that we will not live in this world very long, and that if we can die while continuously doing Krishna Kirtan, then our birth will have been successful. We are only carriers of the message of Sri Chaitanya. In December, Saraswati Thakur returned to Calcutta and stayed at Bagbazar Gaudiya Math. It was here that he gave his last instructions to his disciples. Always preach the message of Sri Rupa Raghunath, the followers of Sri Chaitanya. Our only desire is to become the dust at the feet of the followers of Sri Rupa Raghunath. While staying at Bagbazar Gaudiya Math on January the 1st, 1937, at 5:30 a.m., Saraswati Thakur, who had descended to this world from the personal entourage of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, concluded his earthly pastimes and returned to the abode of the Supreme Lord. Much to the wonder of everyone, all the clocks of the Math stopped at exactly that moment. Arrangements were then made to take Saraswati Thakur's body to Mayapur by train, where he was placed in Samadhi. Along the way, thousands of people gathered to pay their respects to this great personality who had boldly preached the message of Sri Chaitanya for the benefit of all.
A special train from Calcutta to Krishnanagar was arranged, and from Bagbazar Math we carried his holy body to Salda station. From there, there's a special train to Krishnanagar. From there, on the roof of a bus, came to this and this Sarvganja Ghat. From there, we crossed the Saraswati River, and then again we carried by our shoulder to the Math, and there, this place of Samadhi. In the morning we reached. The whole day it took to come from Calcutta, to come to Chaitanya Math. About 7, 8 o'clock we reached Chaitanya Math at night. Then the digging of the grave was begun. We were engaged in that ourselves. Then early morning, of course, he was blessed, and from there I still remember this dignified figure of an Acharya. He sat in a very dignified position and a very grazing color. His complexion was fair, but after 24 hours, when he was made to sit on a asana, a dignified position of an Acharya, was tall and fair and thin and very soft body. Then of course the salt was given around, and then the salt and the earth came to. After this, he's sitting, I came out. I could not stand to cover his head. I came out, and then I again go covered. The tulsi plant was put there, and we all circumambulated with some song and some reading of Bhagavatam, Haridas Thakur. I especially requested, who was chanting the conclusion poetry in Chaitanya Charitamrita commentary made by himself. Prabhupada had his own bhashya in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and in the conclusion he composed a poem, very sweet and very lamenting temperament. I asked to read that poem of him, and it was read. Then Haridas Thakur Nityam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, that was read. And then circumambulation of the Samadhi, the tulsi plant on that. And one gentleman requested me to chant the same Sri Rupa Manjari Pada. But the 2 days before he requested me to sing, and I sang. So that song was sung by me, and then everything finished. Rupa Manjari Pada Sei Mara Sampada, Rupa Manjari Pada Sei Mara Sampada, Sei Mara Bhajana Puja, Sei Mara Bhajana Puja, Sei Mara Pranadhan, Sei Mara Yadhara, Sei Mara Pranadhan, Sei Mara Yadhara, Sei Mara Jivane Jivan, Sei Mara Jivane Jivan, Sei Mara Rasanidhi, Sei Mara Vancha Siddhi, Sei Mara Rasanidhi, Sei Mara Vancha Siddhi, Sei Mara Vedero Dhara, Sei Mara Vedero Dhara, Sei Brata, Sei Tap, Sei Mara Mantra Jap, Sei Brata, Sei Tap, Sei Mara Mantra Jap, Sei Mara Dharma Kara.
After the disappearance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his mission, the Gaudiya Math, suffered a severe setback when 3 of his important disciples deviated from the principles of pure devotional service. This created quite a disturbance, after which many of Saraswati Thakur's sincere disciples, such as Bhakti Vivek Bharati Maharaj, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, Bhakti Daita Madhav Maharaj, Bhakti Rakshak Sriram Maharaj, Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, Bhakti Saranga Goswami Maharaj, Bhakti Vichar Yajavara Maharaj, Bhakti Vilas Tirtha Maharaj, Sakhi Charan Prabhu, Abhay Charan De, and others rose to the occasion and strived with great endeavor to uphold the teachings of Saraswati Thakur in principle and through their perfect behavior and personal example. During that time, many missions following the codes of the Gaudiya Math were established, and the preaching of the Sankirtan movement spread throughout India. Many Krishna-conscious literatures were published, and many new temples were opened. Krishna consciousness in India was flourishing, but the prediction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that the holy name of Krishna would be spread in every town and village around the world remained a great mystery. All that was about to change in 1959, when Abhay Charan De accepted the renounced order of life and became A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. For several years, Bhaktivedanta Swami prepared himself for a journey that would literally affect the lives of every man, woman and child living on this planet. In 1965, Bhaktivedanta Swami set sail on the good ship Jaladuta, bound for the United States. He carried with him a trunk of newly published volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam with commentary in English. Disembarking from the Jaladuta at New York City, Lord Krishna began to make Bhaktivedanta Swami dance, the effect of which would ignite the Sankirtan movement on a global scale.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
In 12 short years, Bhaktivedanta Swami, then known as Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, was responsible for millions of Krishna conscious literatures being distributed in dozens of languages around the world. Temples and places of worship were established, prasadam, the mercy of Lord Krishna, was distributed to millions, and thousands of Western men and women embraced the holy name of Krishna and the teachings of Lord Chaitanya.
Take advantage of this movement, make your life perfect, go back to home, back to Godhead.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Due to Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Hare Krishna had become a household word in Western countries. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada commented many times that his success was only due to the blessings of his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. In the 1980s and 90s, the words of other prominent preachers of the Sankirtan movement, such as those of Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj and Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, also became heard in the Western world. The involvement of these two great personalities in the Krishna consciousness movement further enhanced the achievements of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Now, in the 21st century, the disciples and grand disciples of these great spiritual masters continue the spreading of the Sankirtan movement on virtually every continent, in every country, and in every town and village of the world. Krishna consciousness is the eternal consciousness of the soul. It is not limited by race, color, or a particular society. Krishna consciousness is universal, and those who understand this are indeed fortunate. May the blessings of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur remain with them forever.
परमं सुपरिपुराजगाचार्य सदस्यमान भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय।